Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the Woman's Hustle, Thrills and Spills of Entrepreneurship. It's your girl, Keisha, coming back with another amazing session and conversation. Listen, you have not subscribed to the Woman's Hustle yet. I don't know what you're waiting on. This season has been full of amazing gems, amazing women. And listen, today's episode is going to be no different. So if you see my beautiful face on the screen, then that means you see that I am not here by myself. So I'm going to allow my guest the honor of introducing herself. Hello, hello.
Hey, Keisha, so great to be here. Okay, so my name is Sarah Janzen. I am the founder of Her Big Leap. And what we do is we help women who've been climbing the corporate ladder for years leave corporate and start their own business. And I
Whoa.
help them do it without putting all of their financial rewards at risk. So we do it really strategically, successfully. I'm so looking forward to our conversation.
I am too, because if I could tell you the amount of conversations that I've had from women who want to do just that, who are in corporate America, who are like, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to start my business, but they just don't have a clue. So you are going to be another gem today. So I'm super excited to dive into that with you today. Sarah, I want you to share a little bit about your backstory, right? And
Yeah.
what got you here today with the big leap? Because I'm super excited for my listeners to hear. I kind of read a little bit about it and it just made me feel all types of warm and fuzzy inside. But I would love for you to share a little bit with the listeners.
Well, Keisha, I know you're a coach, and so you'll resonate with this. For so many of us coaches, our mess is our message. Like what I
Mm.
help women do now is where I was 12 years ago, and I was a mess. Like
That
I was climbing the corporate ladder. And let's just go back a hot second. Like I was the one who got good grades, went to a good school, got the degree that I was supposed to make my way, got a good job, and then climbed the corporate ladder. And that was what I was told is the definition of success.
right.
And then I got to middle management and I started, my health was failing. I was stressed out, burnt out before burnout was a thing. This was,
Mm.
12 years ago, before
Right,
it was an
right.
epidemic. I was burnt out. My health was failing. My relationships were falling apart because I was so career focused. And every promotion took me to a different city. So I didn't even have a social network that was like stable. And
Oh,
so
wow.
I just realized that and then layer on top of that, I'd been through a couple mergers and acquisitions. And so you start seeing that the company you joined, you're just a number at the end of the day. After a
Mm.
couple of reorgs, you see good people leave. And I think I became disillusioned. I became disillusioned with corporate and disillusioned with the industry that I was in, which was
Yeah.
pharmaceuticals, because once you see the sausage made, you're like,
Oh,
ooh,
yeah.
so there were just layer upon layer upon layer. And I realized that I was chasing something and I was looking above me on the corporate ladder. I'm like, I don't want to be those people.
Yeah.
I don't want it so what, so there must be more to life than this. And I left corporate and I had no idea. I had no idea what I was going to do. My first business failed before launch. And I look back now and I was chasing opportunities that were not the right opportunities for me, but I didn't have that perspective or that
Yeah.
clarity. And so I've created a program and a system and a framework to help women who are exactly now where I was 12 years ago and help them just
Man.
streamline it, but also get out of corporate without risking everything, because I think
Yes.
that's the thing that keeps us stuck.
It is most definitely that. As someone who was actually kicked out of corporate America as well, I definitely was fired from my job in 2020. I had already started upgraded mindsets, but I had that mindset at that time. Oh, I want to help everybody, right? So
Mhm.
just sharing in that similar story of chasing the opportunity to help all women, I didn't really understand the details that needed to come and the ecosystems that needed to be built when it came to building that business. So although I had some failures within the business, I'm proud to say Upgraded Mindsets is still thriving, but there's nothing wrong with failures. And I want people to understand that, especially when you're on the entrepreneurial journey. There's nothing, failures are you rerouting and reshifting. And you help women with that, like all day, every day. We have to really, I've learned, and this is something that I do within upgraded mindsets, is the purpose has to be behind it. Right. I love how you mentioned like you were chasing opportunities, but not really understanding how those opportunities were going to satisfy and fulfill you as a woman because we get lost in that, right?
100%.
We get lost in it. We feel like, oh, this is a good opportunity, but a good opportunity for who? It could
Mhm.
be a good opportunity for somebody else, but if it's not something that is pulling at your heartstrings or something that you know that you can see yourself doing long term, you do have to question that. Everything is not for everybody, ladies. That's one thing I want us to understand. So,
Well, can we touch on that for a second, Keisha?
yes,
Because these
yes,
are the patterns. There's probably 2 main patterns that I see for women leaving
yeah.
corporate that lead to either failure or unnecessary challenges.
Mhm.
And that's one, look, I left because I was burnt out. I was
Yeah.
stressed out because I'd been through 2 mergers and acquisitions. The company I was working with was not the company I joined when I
Okay.
started, right? And
Right.
so it became more and more toxic. But I see so many women, especially in their 40s and 50s, you layer on hormone adjustments, like, you
Woo!
layer on perimenopause, and there are so many women who are like, "F
Facts.
this, like, I'm out of here." The challenge here is that women are trying to get away from something instead of working towards something, and that's something we
Ooh.
work so closely with women on because right? Like, if you're running away from something, it's not clear where you're running, you're just, like, scattered, you're just like,
Yes.
"Okay," you're like a rabbit being chased, you're, like, all over the place.
Oh my
And so
god,
you
yes.
need to be you need to be having that clarity that something you're working towards. So you're working towards something, not running away from something.
I love that. That's a huge mindset shift right there. Instead of running away from something, be working towards something because that's what it's
100%.
about. Like, ladies, we sometimes, and I do work with women that are in their 40s. I'll be 50 in June. So it's like I understand, but there's never a time where I want anyone to say that it's too late for you to make those shifts. It is
That's it.
never too late. I have clients that are in their 60s that are starting things for the first time. That is what reinventing yourself is all about. I feel like sometimes we are lost personally. We don't know what we want in our personal being, right? We're stuck as the titles of moms and wives and daughters and caregivers and things like that. So we don't know that we want more because we default to just accepting what has been handed to us, not understanding we have control of our life. It doesn't mean that it's gonna be a smooth sailing. Cause baby, let me tell you something. There is no such thing as smooth sailing when it comes to claiming the life that you want in personal and a professional being. But I tell you one thing, it's worth it because it's something that you are striving to do. You will be able to take your last breath knowing that you did everything possible to live a satisfying and fulfilling life as a woman, as a business owner, and whatever else it is that you want to do in life. And I love that you like literally teach this every single day. I want to talk about that though for a second, Sarah. I want to talk about the fact of reinventing ourselves, right?
Mhm.
Because I think that you said something that we talked about before in our pre-chat, but you also talk about it a lot within your business and really like having the mindset of an entrepreneur, right? Sometimes I feel like we take our corporate mindset into the entrepreneurial world. And although there may be some tips that you do need to bring into that, understanding that that's a completely different world. I'd love for you to touch on that a little bit.
That's a great, great point because look, as women, our identity shifts throughout our life. If you've been married, I mean, I took my husband's name. Like that's an identity shift when you literally have a
Right.
different last name when you get married. And that
Exactly.
I know that's not the case for everyone, but you become a wife, you become a mom. The first time you hear
Yep.
another kid in the playground say, "Hey, so and so's mom," you're like, "I have a new identity." We as women are shapeshifters. We shift our identity, and it blew me away, and I think it most people underappreciate that going from employee to entrepreneur is the biggest identity shift that
Oh my God.
many of us will ever make.
It's
Even after
fact.
you become a wife, a mom, after whatever that is, it's the biggest identity shift. And I think that's especially for women who have climbed the corporate ladder, who, they're running P&Ls, they're running teams. They're like, I got the strategy down. And they do. The strategy is often not the biggest
Mhm.
stumbling block. It's how you think, how you show up, how you make decisions. And so there are major distinctions between moving from an employee to an entrepreneur. And a
Yeah.
lot of that is just how you show up and how you're thinking and how you're making decisions.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I do have to bring some of the corporate mindset, but I feel like some of the corporate mindset involves like some discipline because
Mhm.
when you're at your corporate job, you know you gotta clock in by a certain time, right? Unless one of those blessed salary people that can just work whenever you want,
Mhm.
and they're getting more and more far and few in between, let me tell you. But if you're somebody that know you have to be at work at 9 o'clock in the morning, you've got to punch the clock by 9 o'clock. You get off at 5, you're getting off at 5. You know that you have responsibilities throughout the day that you have to handle in order to maintain that job. So when it comes to those aspects, absolutely you do want to bring the discipline of the corporate world into your entrepreneurial journey. But to me, that's where it stops because you have to create policies. You have to create strategies. You have to create the resources, the tools, whatever it is. And a lot of us are solopreneurs that don't understand. We feel like that we can just make a website and make a social media page and everybody's just going to come and flow and everybody's just going to come and support us. And we just know that that's not reality. So, touching on the entrepreneurial side involves really building like that entire ecosystem. And
Mhm.
that's where we come in as coaches, ladies. You have to realize that you can't do this by yourself. And Sarah, when did you like have that moment of, you know what, I need to bring some support in here because there's some things that I want to work on and I know I can't do it by myself?
Well, I mean, Keisha, I'm gonna be honest with you, like, it took me longer than it should have,
Yeah.
partly because my ego got in the way. I'm like, "I can do this, I'm gonna show
Oh,
them."
yes.
And it really did take my first
Yeah.
business failing and looking back, and I'm like, "I put so much time, I put so much savings, like, tens of thousands of dollars into this business." In the wrong places, by the way, because I was
Right.
still thinking like an employee and, the corporate
Mm.
marketer who I had run $1,000,000 budgets and marketing budgets,
Right.
but it took a massive hit to my ego to realize maybe I do need help. Maybe I can't do this
Mm.
on my own.
Yeah.
And then I was willing to invest.
Yeah.
And truthfully, it's the best decision. I mean, I'm still, and I tell the women I work with, like, look, I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars, and this is not like bragging
Right.
but but I've also seen every time I invest in myself
You
through
see that
mentors,
ROI.
personal development, the ROI is
Yes.
insane.
Yes. And I think that's where you said one word that just stuck out, and I know so many of us have it, and it's the ego. I can
Mhm.
do this. I can handle that. Again, it goes back into your personal shifting, ladies. You feel like because you have been that mom that's been able to show up everywhere, you've been, that wife that is there for your husband, and no shade because that's exactly what we should be doing. However, you still have to make sure that you are prioritizing yourself enough to where you're saying, I'm still able to do these things and I'm still also able because we have the time. I hear ladies all the time, oh, I don't have the time. I have the time to show up. My 1440 shuts all of that down. There are 1440 minutes in a day. Do not tell me you do not have the time to make things happen
Well,
if you
Keisha,
want them to make it happen.
can we just touch on that? Because the women I hear saying, "I don't have time," they're also ones getting an executive MBA, right? Like, investing in themselves and, like, developing their own credentials. They're the ones doing the PTA, the church groups,
Mhm.
I'm on the board of this, I'm not on the
Right.
board of that, or I'm doing the bake sale at work. They've got time. They're just giving it to everyone else instead of
Woo!
giving it to
Tell them,
themselves.
Sarah. Tell them. Tell them.
So this is
Reality.
the thing, and it's not to say you need to give up all those things,
Right.
but it does necessitate a conversation. Okay, look, maybe this school year, instead of being on the PTA, instead of doing the bake sales this year,
Damn.
this is the one year you give to yourself and you invest in yourself all that time, all those extra resources. You invest in you, so you've got so much more time for the rest of their
Mhm.
school years.
Yep. Woo! Tell them again
Okay,
because at the end
I'll
of the
slow
day
down now. I'll slow down.
no, no, do not, because this is what we need to hear, ladies. Sometimes the truth is harsh. Sometimes it's not what we wanna hear. Sometimes we maybe even get a little offended behind it. But once we take the emotion out of it, I guarantee you're gonna listen to this episode again and be like, "Ooh, they is right. I'm going to cut back on so much PTA time," because that doesn't mean you're not being a good mom. That doesn't mean that you're not showing up for your kids at school. But if they've got 25 bake sales this year, maybe only show up to 10 and spend those other time, that 15, starting the business that you knew you want to do because you're now purpose driven in that. So
That's it.
we
K
we
and
we, we ain't gonna preach at y'all too much more, but
Well, Keisha, let's layer on that because earlier on in the podcast, I said, there are two big mistakes that people make that,
yep.
either lead to failure or unnecessary challenges. Most women who are leaving corporate are leaving because they have a big heart to serve.
Yeah,
And I know that's your audience, and I know it's my audience.
it is
They
facts.
have a massive heart to serve. And they're like, look, I want to be doing good in the world. I want to have an impact. And just like you said at the beginning, you came out and you're like, I can help everyone. I can coach everyone, which is absolutely true and is not going to help your business, and it's not going to help you scale your
At
business or even,
all.
narrow in your business. And so this is another big part of really switching from your old identity to your new identity. Be like, yes,
Yes.
I know just because you can serve everyone doesn't mean you have to or that you should. And
Bars.
so really taking, and I think this is the biggest misconception that people think, especially when we have this narrow view that running a business, we have this notion from our parents' generation that it's like, okay, so now you're tied to a brick and mortar, or you're doing that old school type of business that you're tied to.
Yep.
This is really taking a look at, like, what's the business that works for me? And just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Mhm.
Dialing that in to be like, what am I great at? Who do I want to work with? How do I want to spend my days? And
Yes.
then building your business based on that.
It is a fact, and I think that's where so many of us fall short. We don't take those steps. You have a vision. That doesn't mean tomorrow you need to start it, ladies. That's one thing that I want us to understand. There's nothing wrong with the vision, but that doesn't mean tomorrow you need to put the announcement. I have had clients where they have started things on their own. They've launched things. Everybody's like, "Oh, congratulations, congratulations." And then there are crickets after that, not just from the audience, but from the client, because you didn't know what next step to take once you made this social media post and got these hundreds of congratulations and likes. Now what? Because people are now looking for what it is that you're bringing, but you have not put a strategy in place to even start that. You just wanted to, your emotions said, tell everybody you're starting something. But guess what? The momentum is gone just as quick as you put it out there. So be intentional and creating the strategy. You don't have to start it today, but just like Sarah said, the failures and the ego and understanding that we have to have some form of support. You don't know everything. I don't know everything, but having a support system of coaches, mentors, communities that are going to help you be able to say, you know what? I didn't even think about that. Or you see somebody else doing it, you know what? I didn't think about that aspect of a thing. That don't mean duplicate them, y'all, because authenticity is key. Okay. We're gonna talk about that. But
Keisha, can
make
I just
sure
interrupt and say, like,
you
you
can.
are speaking like this is the gospel in terms of starting your own business. Seriously, like, don't put your LinkedIn notice out until you actually have a plan and you have the next steps of, like, what am I asking for?
Yes.
Like, this is the biggest mistake. And I see along the same lines, especially the extroverts,
Yeah.
and I can relate to this. You start having conversations. I'm going to network. I'm going to have all these conversations. I'm going to
Yep.
talk to everyone, and you end up burning through your network without an actual ask, without the actual offer, without the next
Woo!
steps, and you burn
Yes.
through your network the same way posting on LinkedIn, and then crickets. Then
Mm.
what?
Yep. That's facts. That's a fact. Listen, I want you to talk to the woman who's scared to leap, right? I want you to say something to the woman that's burnout, but she's afraid to leave her job, because there are listeners that are here. They are listening. They're on, whether they have side hustles already or they're in that visionary stage. I would love for you to share with them what you think and what they should hear today. Some motivating words.
I think the biggest thing that holds women in corporate, and it's completely justified, is the money. It's,
Yeah.
oftentimes we've worked so hard up the ladder that it really is the golden handcuffs. Like,
Yeah.
we feel trapped because we've built this lifestyle, we've built our family's lifestyle around your income. And I talk to a lot of women, and who are the breadwinner, or their family
Right.
really depends on their financial
Yeah.
income. And so I think the biggest thing that I would encourage women to do is, and it's really, really tough sometimes when you feel like you're on the treadmill and you are like blinders on to your like it's like I wake up, I get the kids to school, I go to work, I come home, I get the kids fed and in bed, and then I get back on my laptop. Like you have blinders onto the world. At least I did, and I see this a lot with women I talk to.
Mhm.
We are so on the treadmill that we don't realize what else is out there. And I think that's the two things that I see keep women stuck is one, they've built this lifestyle, which is amazing. And I love that they've worked that hard to create that for
Right.
themselves, but they don't realize that they can also have that same lifestyle by having a business because they don't know what's possible out there. And so
Yep.
the more we can have conversations like this, Keisha, and show people you actually can replace your corporate income faster than you probably think is possible.
Yep.
And I think too, and this was true for me, when you're in corporate, a lot of my social friends, like a lot of my social network was also in corporate. My everyone I interacted with was in corporate. They didn't have the perspective that I needed. They didn't know what was possible because they were head down in corporate too. So
Yep.
you're hearing people kind of project their fears and doubts onto you, being like, well, you know, every business is going to take you 3 years to make profit. No, it's not. I mean, maybe if you're starting a store with millions of dollars of inventory or
Right.
creating, maybe that's true with that old style of business, the brick and mortar, the storefront, having inventory. That might be true. But most of the women I work with are starting service-based businesses where the profit is about 95% or higher, and
Ooh.
they're getting paid, and they're
Yep.
getting paid quickly. And so I just want to change the narrative of what is possible for women, especially when they come with decades of corporate experience and expertise and skills. You're not starting from zero, ladies. You're not 20 years old starting from zero. You've
Right.
got something you can translate into a business.
I love it. Listen, y'all, that's a mic drop moment, okay? That is a mic drop moment. I love it, Sarah. This is a conversation that I love to have. I want women to understand that we're not telling you things are easy. We're not telling you that you just need to turn things off and just go all in tomorrow. But what we're telling you is if you know that you are tired, if you know that that burnout is causing you stress, it is causing you havoc, you are losing sleep, hair, whatever it is that you're dealing with on top of getting older, then it's time to really sit down and do some serious self reflection because it's never too late for you to make shifts. It's never too late to shift your mindset. It's never too late to shift your identity. And we are two ladies that can help you make that happen. Sarah, let them know where they can find you at social media, website, all that good stuff.
Sure thing. So you can find me. The easiest way to remember is herbigleap.com. That's my website. So herbigleap.com. You can find free resources. We have a masterclass that's available for women who are considering. It's like we show you what needs to happen to make this possible for you. On socials, you can look me up on LinkedIn. On Instagram, I'm the Sarah Janzen because I married a guy with a popular last name apparently. So Sarah Janzen was taken. So I'm
Right,
the Sarah
right.
Janzen. But seriously, you can find me, reach out. If anything that I'm saying resonates, please reach out and connect. I love connecting with women who are either thinking about it or have already started their journey, or they're 2 years in and they're like, oh, this is harder than I thought it would be. I just love having these connections.
Absolutely. And I love what you said. Ladies, it's never too late. Don't let that ego keep you stuck on the hamster wheel to nowhere. All right. There are so many communities and connections of women who are doing it just like you, who are thinking where you're at. But also, there are women who have scaled and used to think like you thought. So, therefore, do not feel like that you can't reach out. Nobody's going to judge you. Ladies, we are powerful by ourselves, but let me tell you, we are a force when we are together. So I want you to understand that as you seek out support, taking the next steps in whatever it is that you're doing. All right. It has been amazing having you here on The Woman's Hustle. This was a conversation that I feel like I needed to have, right? That high energy reality of actually leaving corporate and stepping into entrepreneurship and understanding that it's not easy, but if it's something that you are struggling with, and you're fighting with yourself every day, then it may be something that's necessary. All right. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. Share this with somebody who may be thinking about leaving corporate America. All right. Because this is some raw conversation, ladies. All right. Until next time.